I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. I'm Sienna, 22F, about to graduate from college, and I just uninvited my dad, Matthew, 48M, from my graduation ceremony. Now my whole family is in an uproar, calling me selfish and heartless. But let me explain why I did what I did. My childhood wasn't exactly a walk in the park. My parents divorced when I was 8, and my dad got custody of me and my younger brother, Eric, 20M. At first, things seemed okay. Dad had a good job as a salesman, and we lived in a nice house in the suburbs. But everything changed when I was about 12. Dad lost his job and started drinking heavily. He'd always enjoyed a beer or two, but now he was downing a six-pack every night. Our nice house in the suburbs turned into a cramped apartment in a not-so-great part of town. Dad's unemployment checks barely covered rent and utilities, let alone food for 2 growing kids. I grew up fast. By 13, I was the one making sure Eric and I had something to eat, even if it was just ramen noodles or peanut butter sandwiches. I started babysitting for neighbors, mowing lawns, anything to scrape together a few dollars for groceries or school supplies. Meanwhile, Dad spent most of his days passed out on the couch, surrounded by empty beer cans. The worst part was how Dad would get when he was drunk. He'd alternate between maudlin self-pity and explosive anger. One minute he'd be crying about how he was a failure, the next he'd be screaming at us for being ungrateful brats. He never hit us, but the constant emotional roller coaster was exhausting. I tried to protect Eric as much as I could. I'd send him to a friend's house when Dad was in one of his moods, or I'd deliberately provoke Dad to focus his anger on me instead of Eric. It wasn't easy, but I felt like I had to be the adult since our actual adult was barely functioning. Despite all this, I managed to keep my grades up. School became my escape, the one place where I felt normal and in control. I threw myself into my studies and extracurriculars, partly because I enjoyed them, but also because it meant spending less time at home. When it came time to apply for colleges, I did it all on my own. Dad was too drunk to help, and even if he had been sober, he probably wouldn't have known how. I applied for every scholarship I could find, wrote countless essays, and somehow, miraculously, got a full ride to a good state university. The day I left for college was the happiest day of my life. For the first time, I felt free. I didn't have to worry about what I'd find when I got home, or whether there'd be food in the fridge, or if Dad would be sober enough to remember to pay the electric bill. Eric stayed with Dad, but he was old enough by then to take care of himself. Plus, he had always been Dad's favorite, so things were easier for him. We stayed in touch, and Eric would keep me updated on how things were at home. Over the next 4 years, I thrived. I made friends, joined clubs, got good grades, and even started dating. I rarely went home, using holidays to work extra hours at my campus job instead. Dad would call sometimes, usually drunk, alternating between guilt-tripping me for abandoning the family and telling me how proud he was of me. Now, here's where things get complicated. About 6 months ago, Eric called to tell me that Dad had finally hit rock bottom. He'd gotten a DUI, lost his license, and was facing potential jail time. This seemed to be the wake-up call he needed. He joined AA and, according to Eric, has been sober ever since. I was skeptical at first, but as the months went by, Eric insisted Dad was really changing. He got a job as a cashier at a local grocery store, started attending therapy, and was even trying to reconnect with old friends who weren't just drinking buddies. Last month, Dad called me himself. He was sober, apologetic, and asked if he could come to my graduation. He said he wanted to make amends, to show me how much he'd changed. I was torn. Part of me wanted to believe him, wanted to have the father I'd always wished for. But another part of me, a bigger part, was angry. Where was this Dad when I needed him? Where was he when I was scrounging for food, or crying myself to sleep, or missing out on my childhood because I had to be the responsible one? After a lot of thought, I called Dad back and told him I didn't want him at my graduation. I said I was glad he was getting help, but that it was too little, too late. I told him that my graduation was about celebrating my achievements I'd made despite him, not because of him. I said I didn't want to spend my special day worrying about whether he'd stay sober or cause a scene. Dad was devastated. He begged and pleaded, but I stood firm. Then Eric found out. He was furious with me, saying I was being cruel and unforgiving. He argued that Dad was really trying this time, that he deserved a second chance. My aunts and uncles got involved, all taking Dad's side. They've been calling and texting nonstop, telling me I'm being selfish and that family should always come first. But here's the thing, where was this family when I needed them? Where were they when I was basically raising myself and Eric? Why didn't any of them step in to help when it was clear Dad couldn't take care of us? I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Part of me feels guilty, but a bigger part feels justified. This is my day, my achievement. Don't I have the right to celebrate it the way I want, without the stress and baggage of my childhood hanging over me? Am I wrong for uninviting my dad? Should I give him another chance? Or am I justified in wanting to keep this day for myself? Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First of all, I want to thank everyone who commented and shared their own experiences. It really helped me gain some perspective on my situation. After reading through all the comments and doing a lot of soul searching, I decided to stick to my decision of not inviting my dad to the graduation ceremony. However, I did reach out to him and suggested we meet for coffee a few days after the ceremony. I figured this would allow me to enjoy my graduation day without stress, while also giving my dad a chance to talk things out. The graduation ceremony itself was amazing. I felt so proud walking across that stage, knowing how hard I'd worked to get there. My best friends came to cheer me on, and even though my family wasn't there, I didn't feel alone. I felt strong, accomplished, and free. 2 days after the ceremony, I met my dad at a local coffee shop. I was nervous, but I reminded myself that I was in control of the situation. When I saw him, I was shocked by how different he looked. He'd gained some weight, in a healthy way, and the constant look of exhaustion I remembered was gone. He was wearing clean, ironed clothes, and he actually smiled when he saw me. We sat down, and for a moment, neither of us knew what to say. Then Dad cleared his throat and started talking. He apologized, really apologized, for everything he'd put me through. He said he knew he could never make up for the childhood I'd lost, but he wanted to try to be a better father now if I'd let him. He told me about his journey to sobriety, how hard it had been, and how he was taking it one day at a time. He'd been sober for 8 months now, the longest stretch since I was a kid. He talked about his therapy sessions, how he was learning to deal with his emotions without turning to alcohol. Then he did something that really surprised me. He pulled out a small gift wrap package and handed it to me. Inside was a beautiful journal. He explained that his therapist had suggested he write letters to me and Eric, even if he never sent them, as a way of processing his guilt and expressing the things he should have said years ago. He'd filled this journal with letters to me over the past few months. I flipped through the journal, reading snippets here and there. There were apologies, memories of good times I'd almost forgotten, and hopes for the future. In one entry, he wrote about how proud he was of me for graduating, and how he knew it was all my own doing. I won't lie, I cried. It was overwhelming to see this tangible proof of my dad's efforts to change. We talked for hours, really talked, in a way we never had before. I told him about my struggles growing up, how his drinking had affected me. He listened, really listened, without getting defensive or making excuses. By the end of our meeting, I felt different. Not completely healed, but like maybe there was hope for some kind of relationship with my dad. We agreed to take things slow. We're going to meet for coffee once a month, and he's going to keep writing in the journal. I know this doesn't erase the past, and I'm still dealing with a lot of hurt and anger. But for the first time in years, I feel like maybe, just maybe, I might be able to have a dad again someday. Eric called me after I met with Dad. He apologized for getting so angry about the graduation and said he was proud of me for being willing to meet with Dad. We had a long talk about our childhood and how differently we'd experienced it. It was good to clear the air with him too. As for the rest of the family, I've decided to keep my distance for now. Their reaction to the graduation situation showed me that they don't really understand what I went through. Maybe someday we can repair those relationships too, but for now, I'm focusing on healing myself and cautiously rebuilding my relationship with my dad and brother. It's a start, and that's all I can ask for right now. Update 2. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have been going. Life has been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. First, the good news, Dad has managed to stay sober. We've been meeting monthly as planned, and each time, I see more of the father I remember from my early childhood. He's been consistent, showing up on time and fully present for our conversations. He even remembered my birthday, sending a heartfelt card and a small gift, something that hasn't happened since I was a kid. Our conversations have gotten deeper. We've talked about some of the really tough times during my childhood, and while it's been painful, it's also been healing. Dad has taken full responsibility for his actions, never making excuses. He's shared more about his own struggles with depression and anxiety, which helps me understand him better, even if it doesn't excuse what happened. Eric and I have grown closer through all of this. We've had some long talks about our different experiences growing up. He's admitted that he didn't fully understand how much I was dealing with back then, and he's expressed a lot of gratitude for the ways I tried to protect him. It's been good to clear the air and strengthen our bond as siblings. Now, for the not-so-good news. About 2 months ago, Dad lost his job at the grocery store. It wasn't his fault, the store was downsizing, but it hit him hard. I was worried this might trigger a relapse, but so far, he's hanging in there. He's been attending more AA meetings and leaning on his sponsor for support. The job loss has put a strain on our slowly rebuilding relationship. Dad's been more withdrawn in our recent meetings, and I can tell he's embarrassed about his situation. I've tried to be supportive without enabling, suggesting job search resources and offering to look over his resume. It's a delicate balance, trying to help without falling back into the caretaker role I had for so long. The extended family situation has improved somewhat. My Aunt Lisa, Dad's sister, reached out to apologize for how she reacted to the graduation situation. We had a long talk, and she admitted she had no idea how bad things had been for Eric and me. She's been making an effort to be more supportive, even offering to help Dad with his job search. As for me, I started my first post-college job about 3 months ago. It's in my field of study, and I'm really enjoying it. The transition from student to full-time employee has been challenging but exciting. I'm finally feeling like I'm building the life I've always wanted for myself. One unexpected development is that I've started seeing a therapist. After all the emotional ups and downs of the past few months, I realized I needed some professional help to process everything. It's been really helpful in dealing with my lingering anger and trust issues. My therapist suggested I start journaling, like Dad has been doing. It's been eye-opening to see my thoughts and feelings on paper. I've realized I still have a lot of unresolved pain from my childhood, but I'm working through it. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of my relationship with Dad. We're not fully healed, I don't know if we ever will be, but we're in a much better place than we were a year ago. I'm proud of the progress he's made, and I'm proud of myself for being open to this process of reconciliation. That said, I'm also trying to manage my expectations. I know recovery is a lifelong process, and there may be setbacks along the way. I'm working on finding a balance between being supportive of Dad's recovery and maintaining healthy boundaries for myself. As always, I appreciate any advice or insights from those who have been in similar situations. How do you support a recovering parent without losing yourself in the process? And how do you know when, or if, to fully trust again? Update 3. It's been almost a year since my original post, and I felt it was time for another update. A lot has changed, and I'm still processing it all. The biggest news is that Dad relapsed about 2 months ago. It happened after he'd been unemployed for nearly 6 months. The stress of job hunting, financial struggles, and I suspect, the weight of guilt and trying to make amends, became too much for him. I found out when he didn't show up for our monthly coffee meeting. Worried, I called Eric, who went to check on Dad and found him passed out drunk in his apartment. It was like a punch to the gut, seeing all the progress of the past year seemingly erased in one moment. But here's the thing, it wasn't erased. Yes, Dad slipped, but his response to the slip was completely different from how he would have handled it in the past. He immediately called his sponsor, checked himself into a 30-day rehab program, and reached out to both Eric and me to apologize and assure us he was getting help. I won't lie, I was angry and hurt when I first found out. All those old feelings of betrayal and abandonment came rushing back. But after some time to process and a few intense sessions with my therapist, I realized something important: recovery isn't a straight line. Relapse, while not inevitable, is a common part of the process for many people. What matters is how Dad handled the relapse. He didn't try to hide it or make excuses. He took responsibility and immediately took steps to get back on track. That's growth, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. Dad's been out of rehab for a few weeks now. He's back to attending daily AA meetings and has found a part-time job at a local hardware store. It's not much, but it's a start, and he seems determined to rebuild his life again. Our relationship is complicated. I'm proud of how he handled the relapse, but I'm also wary. The trust we've been building over the past year has been shaken. We're still meeting monthly, but the atmosphere is more subdued. We're both trying to figure out how to move forward from here. Eric has been amazing through all of this. He's been a rock for both Dad and me, offering support without enabling. Our sibling bond has only grown stronger through this ordeal. We've had some deep conversations about our childhood, our relationships with Dad, and our hopes and fears for the future. I'm incredibly grateful to have him in my life. As for me, I'm doing okay. My job is going well, I even got a small promotion last month. I'm still seeing my therapist regularly, which has been crucial in helping me navigate these turbulent emotions. I've also started volunteering at a local youth center, working with kids who come from difficult home situations. It's been healing to be able to offer the kind of support I wish I'd had as a child. My perspective on addiction and recovery has shifted dramatically over the past year. I've learned that it's a complex, lifelong process, with ups and downs along the way. I've also learned that while I can be supportive of Dad's journey, his sobriety is ultimately his responsibility, not mine. I'm working on finding a balance between having compassion for Dad's struggles and maintaining healthy boundaries for myself. It's not easy, and some days are harder than others. But I'm committed to this process of healing, both for myself and for my relationship with my father. As I reflect on everything that's happened since my original post, I'm struck by how much has changed, both in my circumstances and in my outlook. A year ago, I was angry, hurt, and unsure if I even wanted a relationship with my dad. Now, while things aren't perfect, I feel like we're both trying our best to build something new. I don't know what the future holds. Dad's relapse was a stark reminder that recovery is an ongoing process, not a destination. But I'm cautiously hopeful. We've come a long way from where we were a year ago, even with the setbacks. I've learned a lot about forgiveness over this past year. Not the kind of forgiveness that excuses or forgets past hurts, but the kind that allows you to move forward without being weighed down by anger and resentment. It's a daily choice, and some days are harder than others, but I'm committed to it. To those who have followed my story and offered advice and support along the way, thank you. Your insights and shared experiences have been invaluable. And to those who might be going through something similar, know that you're not alone. It's okay to have complicated feelings about family, to love someone while also being hurt by them, to hope for change while protecting yourself. As for me, I'm focusing on building the life I want for myself. I'm excited about my career, I'm strengthening my relationships with friends and with Eric, and I'm learning to take care of my mental health. My relationship with Dad is just one part of my life, not the whole of it. I don't know if I'll post another update. Part of moving forward is not letting this story define me. But I wanted to share where things stand now, and to thank this community for being a part of my journey. To anyone struggling with a parent's addiction or their own recovery journey, it's not an easy road, but there is hope. Take care of yourselves, set boundaries where you need to, and remember that you're not responsible for anyone else's sobriety but your own.